An entire village surrounded. No escape, no soldiers left to defend them. Just one wounded American, with no backup, no orders, and no chance of survival. What happened next was so unbelievable, it was buried in silence for over 50 years, until a letter from an old woman revealed the truth. This isn't a story you'll find in textbooks, but it's one you'll never forget. This is the untold story of the one soldier who stood between a Nazi battalion and a village doomed to burn. Before we dive into this incredible story of bravery and sacrifice, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell, because stories like these deserve to be shared and remembered. Some heroes are never mentioned in textbooks, some never wear medals or sit for interviews. Some simply do the impossible and disappear into silence. This is the story of Corporal James Thorne, a name history forgot, but a village will never forget. Winter, 1944. Europe was bleeding. The war had stretched beyond what anyone thought possible. Villages crumbled, families scattered, and soldiers were nothing more than chess pieces in a game no one could understand. Corporal James Thorne was one of them. An American from Kansas, he had no wife waiting back home, no letters from loved ones tucked in his coat, no brothers or sisters. He had enlisted not out of patriotism, but because there was nowhere else for him to go. He was quiet, unremarkable to most, and barely noticed in the barracks. But those who did pay attention saw something different in James, a calmness, a thoughtfulness, a way of observing everything around him, as if every detail mattered. He was stationed with a small recon unit tasked with monitoring enemy movement near the French countryside. Their goal was simple: observe, report, and avoid contact. But war rarely follows orders. One bitterly cold evening, the unit made camp near the edge of the forest, bordering a forgotten village named Valmir. It wasn't on most maps, and its population had dropped to barely 200 after the German occupation. That night, as James cleaned his rifle by the light of a dying fire, the silence was broken by a sharp whistle, followed by an explosion. The Germans had tracked their movements. In seconds, the quiet recon mission became a massacre. James grabbed what gear he could and ran blindly into the woods, dodging bullets and shouts in German. By dawn, he was alone. He was wounded, his shoulder grazed by a bullet, his coat soaked in freezing blood. His radio was smashed, his rations gone. He had no way to contact command. But as the sun rose over the frost-covered trees, he saw smoke rising in the distance, not from a battlefield, but from chimneys. He followed it and stumbled into Valmir. Valmir looked like something from a fairy tale turned grim. Stone cottages with broken shutters, silent streets where even dogs didn't bark. It felt like the village had held its breath and never exhaled. James collapsed near the well at the village square. At first, the villagers were afraid. They had seen soldiers before, usually Germans who came with rifles and commands. But this man looked broken. It was a child, a 10-year-old girl named Lucy, who approached first. She knelt beside James and offered him a crust of bread. He looked up with pain and confusion, and then smiled. The villagers took him in, bandaged his wounds, and let him rest in the cellar of the old church. Later that night, the mayor and elders told James the truth. The Germans were returning. This time, not to question or punish. This time, to destroy. 2 local boys had been caught helping Allied soldiers escape. In retaliation, the Nazis had marked Valmir as an example. Annihilation was coming within days. There was no time and no help. James could have run. He was wounded, alone. and had already done more than most. But something deep inside him refused to walk away. "I won't let them take this place," he said. The villagers stared at him in disbelief. "You're one man," someone whispered. James stood up, his hand pressed to his stitched shoulder. "Then one man will have to be enough." Over the next 4 days, James became something else entirely. Not just a soldier, but a protector, a teacher, and a strategist. He taught the villagers how to dig trenches and set traps using farming tools. He took old Nazi uniforms from fallen patrol soldiers and used them to create confusion. He crafted decoys from scarecrows, placed broken mirrors in trees to reflect light and simulate movement. He taught the children how to signal silently using reflections and hand signs. He forged fake Allied documents and left them near a burned-out barn for any German scouts to find, making it seem like a massive Allied operation was heading their way. James never slept more than 2 hours. He refused food unless everyone else had eaten, and every night he walked the perimeter alone, whispering to himself, "Not here, not today." The villagers, once terrified, began to believe in him. Even old men who hadn't touched rifles in decades began standing straighter. Mothers told their children, "Stay close to James. He'll protect you." For the first time in months, hope returned to Valmir. On the 5th night, the horizon glowed red. German trucks rolled in, 15 of them, dozens of soldiers, flamethrowers, heavy artillery. Valmir held its breath. Then, all hell broke loose. Explosions shook the ground, not from bombs, but from the traps James had set. Fake flares lit the sky, simulating a coordinated attack. Sniper fire came from windows, but there were no snipers, only villagers firing and retreating as James had instructed. Mirrors reflected torchlight across the hilltops, making it seem like reinforcements were circling. And James, he was everywhere. He darted from house to house, firing, yelling in German, confusing the attackers. He even lit a pile of Nazi uniforms on fire near the entrance of the village, making it appear that their own men had turned. The Germans, panicked and unprepared for resistance of this level, believed they had walked into a trap. Their commander ordered a retreat to regroup. By morning, they were gone. Valmir still stood, but James didn't. He had been shot twice during the chaos, once in the chest, once in the leg. No one had seen it happen. They found him slumped against the altar of the church, barely breathing, eyes fixed on the stained glass window above. Lucy sat beside him, holding his hand, tears running down her face. "You saved us," she whispered. James gave a faint smile. "I didn't save you. You saved yourselves," he murmured. Then, in soft, broken French, he whispered his final words. "La lumière revient toujours." The light always returns. And with that, Corporal James Thorne, the forgotten hero, took his final breath. No American unit came for him. No medal was awarded. No record of the battle was filed. The villagers buried James beneath the church, under a simple wooden cross. The war raged on. The world moved forward. And Valmir remained untouched, never again threatened, never forgotten by those who lived through that night. For decades, no one outside Valmir knew what happened, until Lucy, now an old woman, wrote a letter to a French historian. There was a man, an American soldier. He saved us when no one else would. We never knew who to thank. That letter led to an investigation. James Thorne's name was found in a missing in action report. His journal, buried under floorboards in the church, told the full story. In 1997, A memorial was erected in Vulmere. Not a statue of a general, not a monument with flags, just a carved stone, with a simple inscription, "To the man who gave us tomorrow, Corporal James Thorne, 1919 to 1944. History forgot him, but a village never did. Let us remember not just the great generals and leaders, but the quiet souls who stood between evil and innocence. This was the story of the forgotten hero.